Okay, hello and welcome to the video. My name is Wade Smith, and this video is entitled Why you should not be promoted by Kata in karate and other martial arts. Many years ago, I was a student in Ishinryu karate and Japanese jiu-jitsu, and my old sensei had a female student who had also been my previous sensei's student 10 years earlier, and she never got promoted beyond purple belt and had remained a purple belt for 10 consecutive years because she didn't know how to fight. And he got fed up with her and told her that he was not promoting her until she got better at fighting. And so even though she knew all of her kata up to and through purple belt, and even though she theoretically knew all of the techniques that he was teaching, when it came to actual live sparring in full contact or close to full contact, she couldn't compete with anyone in the JoJo, even though she was actually probably the largest or second largest woman in there by total size. And she was fit and everything like that. She wasn't, I'm not saying that she was like big, like fat or something like that, but she was fit because she was about the second. I think I would be correct to say that she was the second largest woman in there, and yet, um, she got stuck at purple belt for a total of 10 years without a single promotion, even though theoretically you should only be at purple belt for about 4 to 6 months before you get your next promotion. The reason being is because she never got better at actual fighting, and since it was right not to promote her anymore. And I go a step further than that. I tell people that kata should not be part of your promotion at all because anybody that has a good memory for dance, which I don't, but anybody who has a good memory for dance can learn to memorize the sequence of a kata once they know their basic strikes and punches and kicks and blocks and whatnot. But I actually suck at kata, but I'm very good at fighting. Um, uh, and so I actually had the opposite problem. I got stuck at black belt candidate for 6 months and never got promoted to black belt because I couldn't finish the last kata. And I'm not saying not to promote by kata because I failed the kata test. That's beside the point. The point that I'm making is that the kata is a teaching tool. It's not the whole tool chest, and it shouldn't replace fighting skill, in my opinion, because the whole point of martial arts is to win a fight and defend yourself. It's not to memorize 50 move long sequences of dance like sequences. All right. And everybody knows that white people can't dance anyway. All right. But I believe his pronunciation of his name is Genshin Funakashi, who was, I believe, the Shotokan karate founder. He is quoted as stating, "Do kata exactly, but fighting is another matter." And also, I believe it was Chojin Miyagi who also said something similar regarding kata, or maybe it was Chodoku Kion or Chokimoto. It was one of our grandmasters from many years ago, almost 100 years ago now. But he said, do kata exactly, but fighting is another matter. So, because we don't fight by kata. Kata is a teaching tool to learn techniques, but it's not the be all and end all of mastering techniques in real world applications in full resistive combat. Okay. And so, for that reason, I think that martial arts schools should probably still teach the katas for historical purposes, but not really promote by them at all because in they don't necessarily translate to fighting ability. Does that make them useless? No, it doesn't. They certainly, if you learn all of the bunkai of the katas, it can certainly help some of your fighting techniques. Uh, but I would rather know the bunkai and forget the kata than to know the kata and not be able to apply the bunkai to a fight, in other words. And in fact, since I've had 4 strokes in my adult life since then, I actually have forgotten much of my kata. Uh, so, uh, but I still know the techniques as far as fighting goes because I was actually very good at the full contact sparring using both karate and Japanese jiu-jitsu locks in full contact sparring. Uh, and no offense to my sensei's other students, the black belts and brown belts, and there were very good fighters. They would be able to defend themselves pretty easily in a street self-defense situation. Matter of fact, any of his students beyond yellow belt would be able to defend themselves decently, besides the one woman in question that I mentioned, decently in a street self-defense situation because they were that well trained. Um, now, uh, again, I'm not saying that kata is useless for the historical purpose and traditional purpose, learn it or whatever. But I don't think it should be relied on as a standard of grading belt rank when the whole purpose of the martial art is to learn to fight to defend yourself. You should be graded on your real world ability to fight and defend yourself in a full contact sparring pressure test. You need to be able to do your joint locks and your throws during a full contact spar without getting face planted by your opponent. If you can't do that, you shouldn't be ranking up anymore. Uh, and uh, it's more important to memorize the individual techniques and the applications of those techniques rather than the specific sequences of the kata. And in many cases, the kata does not exactly one to one translate to the real fight techniques anyway, which is why he said fighting is another matter. All right, there are moves in kata such as kamais and double punches, which are actually placeholders for different techniques that are more advanced and too advanced to do in the kata itself, which is part of the bunkai. Um, so and my other criticism of the women's self-defense aspect of the karate class, and this wasn't my sensei's fault, and it wasn't his sensei's fault either. It's just that very often it felt like for women in the class that they were basically being told to rely on a groin kick or an eye gouge to win a fight. And it's like that might work if you hit them exactly right with it at exactly the right moment, or it might not work. Or maybe the guy's on some kind of drugs, or maybe you missed the eye gouge or missed the groin kick. And you know, not to be too graphic, but maybe they're too small, or maybe you just threw a bad kick. But whatever the case, maybe you missed. And so now what do? Now the guy's twice as pissed off at you, your attacker, and your gimmick no longer is going to work. You better have some joint locks and some real striking and boxing and kickboxing skills uh, to because just relying on dirty tactics, so called, will diminish your other fighting skills because you become so reliant on the dirty tactics that you forget to work on the supposedly fair tactics. If there is any such thing as fairness in a fight, which really there isn't. All right. Um. All right. Uh. So I think that's what I wanted to discuss in this video. Uh. Now you may remember in Karate Kid, or if you've seen the Cobra Kai movie videos, at the end of Cobra Kai, Danny beats Terry Silver with a double punch and a crane kick, both of which are not very realistic in a fight. The double punch in a kata is a placeholder for a grappling maneuver where you grab the person by the shirt or gi collar high with one hand, and you grab them by the belt knot or by the groin with the low hand, and you pick them up and throw them by their groin, basically. Um, Whereas in the television show, he double punched Terry Silver in the abdomen and supposedly stopped him from breathing. Um, Not to say that solar plexus punches don't work because they do work, but a double punch doesn't even have any more power than a single punch with proper body torquing. Is what I'm getting at. A double punch would actually be inefficient as a striking maneuver, and would be more efficient as a grappling maneuver, as I told them on the day that I saw that video for the first time, because I actually posted about it. So that's an example of how kata does not really translate to true martial arts fighting. That's why a very large number of traditional martial artists do not succeed in mixed martial arts, because they don't have pressure testing and real Japanese jiu-jitsu or Gracie jiu-jitsu experience. Very few of them have gone far without at least one or the other, if not both, in mixed martial arts. All right. So anyway, kata for tradition, for breathing exercises and whatnot is fine, but I don't believe that it should be the promotion standard in martial arts. Real fighting experience and real fighting skill and ability to apply your techniques in a pressure tested fighting environment is what the promotion standard ought to be. And I think that the Grand Masters, including the ones that are already deceased, would probably agree with me if they saw how that worked in my old sensei's dojo, because there were people who were 2 belt ranks above me that I could easily beat in a fight, and I'm talking about the men. And according to the promotion standards for fighting, they were actually supposed to be able to beat 2 of me in a fight if they were 2 belt ranks above me. But they were good at kata, and I was not good at kata, so I got stuck and never got promoted again. And I'm not, you know, it is what it is, because hey, I signed the contract whenever I was a teenager, and my parents did whenever they put me into school to begin with. And so I knew the promotion standards involved 1/4 kata. But in hindsight, I think that martial arts should probably be 75% technique and fighting and 25% fitness. And kata should just be something on the side for tradition's sake. All right, thank you for watching, and I'm going to end the video now. I'm about 12 minutes in.